My name is Lynn Kough. I live in Chandler, Arizona, which is just outside of Phoenix, and I am a quilt maker. I have been quilting for more than 40 years. I made my first quilt in 1965, which is about just shortly after the dinosaurs passed and the earth cooled. I came home on break from college, and I gathered up scraps of fabric, and I proceeded to piece these fabrics together in no recognizable pattern whatsoever, and they were quality fabrics: wool, corduroy, and my very favorite, bonded knit. My first quilt does weigh about 400 pounds because when I finished using all these quality fabrics, I backed it with a very sturdy piece of fabric, my father's old army blanket. Red Hot Blues in the Night is one of my most favorite quilts. I made it in honor of my dear husband, who has supported me endlessly in this quilt making journey. And it's a combination of two patterns, Inner City and Thousand Pyramids. I'm also very fond of my quilt called Starfire. It's the cover on the first book that I wrote, Stretching Tradition. And the funny story that goes with this one is that I had designed the quilt to be a horizontal quilt. I took it into the shop where I was working at the time, and a good friend of mine came in, and she stood by the side of the table and she said, "Oh yes, that's wonderful, but it goes this way." And she was right. Memories and Mist is a series that I'm doing, and this one is called Lavender Nights. And it's evocative of when I spent much time with my grandmother when I was a little girl. She was an English woman, never became an American citizen, grew lavender in her backyard, and she always had fresh lavender in her linen closet. In 2011, I was inducted into the Arizona Quilters Hall of Fame, and I am just thrilled by this and by the people who supported me and made it a reality. I'm very fortunate to have a wonderful space to sew and work in. When we bought this house, it had an apartment attached to it. A few years ago, my husband said to me, "You should have that space to work in." I told you I adored this man. And so here I am in a wonderful, about 900 square foot space. When you come through my front door, you will see two sewing machines set up because one is never enough. You'll also see my long arm. I have an Innova long arm. I have a room where my fabric is stored, and I have a cutting table and a design wall. The space is a wonderful, wonderful place, but in truth, I think you could make quilts in a closet if you needed to, and in fact I did many years ago because that was the only space I had. I co-opted a walk-in closet. Quilt judging can be a very tricky business, but I see it as an educational opportunity. I began judging by default, actually. A lot of people had been in my classes and had, I guess, enjoyed my style of teaching, which in large part is about encouragement. It really is. And so they asked me to judge shows, and I got started that way. And then I went on to train and become a certified professional judge. When I go to that great quilting bee in the sky, I hope that I will have left not only some wonderful quilts for my children, whom I hope will enjoy them, and that I will have left behind a legacy of positive thinking, encouragement, and the joy of sewing those silly little pieces of fabric together.